I've wanted to impress my mom for as long as I can remember. She's the science teacher at my middle school, the one every kid hopes to get, strict but brilliant, and somehow manages to make Newton's laws sound like wizardry. At home, though, it's like she's got a different set of standards, especially when it comes to me. No matter how hard I tried, my baking soda volcanoes and potato batteries never quite passed muster. But this year, I was determined. The regional science fair was coming up, and I'd decided to build a homemade solar oven, something big, something I could be proud of. Maybe, finally, something Mom would be proud of, too. From the moment I scrawled solar oven in capital letters across my science notebook, I was obsessed. I spent hours after school watching YouTube tutorials, sketching blueprints, and scavenging for materials in the garage. My hands smelled like duct tape for weeks. The first prototype was a disaster. The pizza box lid wouldn't stay up, and I accidentally melted one of Dad's old CDs trying to reflect sunlight. Mom would walk by my room and peek in, sometimes pausing just long enough to ask, "How's it going?" But she never offered advice. It was weird, actually. Every other year, she'd been up to her elbows in my projects, coaching me on variables and safety goggles. This time, she kept her distance, almost like she was afraid of helping. I remember one night, hunched over on the kitchen floor, trying to glue aluminum foil to the inside of a cardboard box. The glue oozed over my fingers, cold and sticky, and the foil kept tearing in jagged lines. My little sister wandered in, wrinkling her nose. "That smells weird," she said. I laughed it off, but inside, I was frustrated. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted Mom to notice. A few days before the fair, I managed to get the oven to work, sort of. On a rare sunny afternoon, I dragged the contraption out to the backyard. I set a marshmallow inside, closed the lid, and waited. 30 minutes later, the marshmallow was sort of gooey, just barely melted. I hooped so loud the neighbor's dog started barking. That evening, I tried to show Mom my results, but she just nodded distractedly, flipping through lesson plans at the kitchen table. "Looks like you're making progress," she said, but her eyes didn't leave the stack of papers. The night before the fair, I could barely sleep. My room was a mess, cardboard scraps, rolls of tape, Sharpies without caps. I kept replaying my practice presentation in my head, trying to nail the explanation of how solar energy could cook food. Around midnight, I heard footsteps in the hallway. The floor creaked just outside my door. I thought maybe Mom would come in, wish me luck, maybe give me one last pep talk. Instead, the footsteps stopped, and after a long pause, I heard her quietly retreat to her own room. The house was eerily still. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, and I listened to the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. Something felt off, like there was a secret hovering just out of sight. When I finally drifted off, it was with a knot of nerves in my stomach and a vague sense that tomorrow wouldn't go as planned. If I'd known what was waiting for me at the science fair, I might not have slept at all. I should have noticed something was wrong from the start, the way my mom hovered by the car, clutching her coffee tighter than usual, or how she kept glancing at my project box in the back seat like it was a ticking bomb. But I was so focused on not tripping over my own feet that morning, so fixated on the idea of finally showing her I was capable, that I missed every sign. The school gym was already buzzing with parents, teachers, and clusters of kids, all shuffling displays and plugging in extension cords. I could hear the slap of sneakers on polished wood and the squeak of folding tables being dragged into place. The air had that faint chemical tang, cleaner, sweat, and the sharp bite of poster glue. My stomach fluttered as I scanned for my spot. I kept picturing my solar oven, the one I'd built from pizza boxes and aluminum foil, the one that actually baked a cookie yesterday afternoon, sitting proudly beneath the bright lights. Except when I got there, my heart dropped. Someone had replaced my project. The table was laid out with a trifold board covered in glossy, perfectly cut graphs and 3D printed models of wind turbines. My name was lettered in crisp, blocky vinyl at the top, no marker smudges, no bent corners, not a single flaw. My stomach twisted. This wasn't my work. I stood there, staring. All the sounds in the gym faded into a dull roar as I tried to process what I was seeing. My hands hovered over the board, almost afraid to touch it, like it would bite me. "Hey, you okay?" A voice behind me startled me, and I spun around to see my mom, all smiles and teacherly calm. She set her coffee down next to a stack of handouts. "What happened to my project?" I tried to keep my voice low, but it came out shaky and thin. She glanced at the display like she couldn't imagine why I was upset. "I thought we agreed your solar oven wasn't quite ready, honey. So I helped a little." "A little?" My voice cracked, and I could feel people nearby start to look over. "Mom, this isn't mine." I didn't make this. Where's my oven? She gave me that look, half patient, half warning, she uses on rowdy students. We talked about this last night. You were so stressed, and I didn't want you to be disappointed if something went wrong. This project is solid. I just wanted to help. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. My hands were sweaty. I kept glancing around, worried someone would overhear, or worse, realize I was a fraud. I tried to keep my voice steady. You switched my project without telling me? That's not helping. She put a hand on my shoulder. Her fingers felt cool, grounding, but I shook her off. I promise, it's for the best. You can present this, and you'll do great. I know you will. I stepped back, nearly bumping into a girl carrying a volcano model. My head buzzed with confusion and humiliation. The gym seemed to close in around me, all those other kids with their messy, honest projects, and here I was, standing next to something I'd never seen before. Then the worst possible thing happened. One of the judges, a tall woman with a clipboard and a sharp, curious smile, strode up to my table. Hi. You must be Alex, she said. Tell me about your project. I froze. My mind went blank. I could feel my mom's gaze drilling into the side of my head. I forced a smile and tried to sound like I belonged there. Yeah. It's about wind energy. And how, different blade shapes affect efficiency. I stumbled over the words, glancing desperately at the board for clues. The models gleamed under the gym lights, their little propellers spinning as the judge leaned in. She eyed me, flipping through her clipboard. That's interesting. Can you walk me through your experiment and what you learned? I swallowed. My mouth felt dry as sandpaper. Sure. So, I tested, 3 types of blades. I think. Using a fan? And I measured the voltage from each. The judge's eyebrows knit together. You think? I could feel the sweat trickling down my back. I tried to laugh it off, but it sounded strangled. It was a lot of data. I might mix up the numbers, but... Which material performed best, and why? She pressed. My eyes darted over the neat columns of data. I tried to piece together an answer. The, balsa wood? Because it was light. Less drag, maybe? The judge scribbled something. She didn't look convinced. I could see my mom in the corner of my eye, nodding along, mouthing silent words, urging me to keep going. Did you face any challenges during your experiment? The judge asked. I wanted to scream. I wanted to blurt out the truth, that I hadn't done any of this, that my real project was probably in a dumpster somewhere, covered in pizza grease and shattered dreams. But I couldn't. Not with everyone watching. Yeah, I managed finally. It was tough to keep the tests fair. Controlling for wind speed and, blade angles. The judge nodded, jotting more notes. Thank you, Alex. If you remember anything else, just let us know. Good luck. As soon as she moved on, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My knees felt weak. I glanced at my mom, who gave me a thumbs up, like this was just another school day. I couldn't take it. The gym felt too hot, too loud, too bright. I needed to find my solar oven. I needed proof that I wasn't losing my mind. I slipped away from my table, weaving between rows of projects, baking soda volcanoes erupting pink foam, a diorama of the water cycle complete with dangling blue beads, a potato battery setup blinking with tiny red lights. The smell of cardboard and markers mixed with the scent of cafeteria tater tots drifting in from the hallway. I ducked behind the bleachers, scanning for any sign of my oven. Nothing. Then I caught a snippet of conversation from 2 teachers chatting by the door. Couldn't believe she'd go that far for her own kid, one of them whispered. After what happened last year, I guess she's just being careful, the other replied. Their words made my heart pound. What happened last year? What was my mom hiding? I kept searching, pushing open the door to the storage closet. Dust motes danced in the pale slant of sunlight from a grimy window. There, shoved behind a stack of folding chairs and forgotten hula hoops, was my solar oven. The foil was dented, and one of the pizza box lids had come loose. My heart ached at the sight. I crouched down, running my fingers over the warped cardboard. A crumb of last night's cookie crumbled under my thumb. I felt a lump rise in my throat. Why would my mom do this to me? Why not just let me fail if that's what would happen? My eyes caught something else, a corner of a manila envelope sticking out of my mom's oversized bag, which she'd dropped in the rush to help set up. The bag was wedged behind the chairs, half concealed. The envelope had my name on it, handwritten in her careful, looping script. I hesitated, glancing toward the closet door. The gym sounds were muffled here, replaced by the faint hum of the old heating vent. I reached for the envelope, fingertips tingling. Just as I slid it free, footsteps thundered down the hallway. My best friend, Riley, burst in, out of breath and wide-eyed. "Alex. You gotta come, now. The judges are asking for you. They're at your table, and your mom looks like she's about to lose it." The envelope trembled in my hands. I shoved it in my hoodie pocket, heart hammering, a million questions swirling in my head. I shot Riley a pleading look. "Do you know what's going on?" She shook her head, grabbing my sleeve. "No, but your mom's freaking out. You have to get back before she does something even crazier." I hesitated, glancing down at the envelope. Should I read it now, risk everything, or go face the judges and keep pretending? My fingers tightened around the paper, the edges digging into my palm. Riley tugged me toward the door. "If you don't hurry, they'll know something's up. Come on." With a final, shaky breath, I followed her out, the envelope burning a hole in my pocket, the truth so close I could almost taste it, but still just out of reach. The gym doors loomed ahead, the noise swelling as we drew closer. I had no idea what waited for me on the other side, but I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I found myself staring at my mom's neat handwriting on that folded sheet of paper she'd tucked into my backpack. All morning, the new project, a pristine model of a wind turbine, nothing like my lopsided solar oven, sat on the table, drawing glances from classmates. But it was the letter that had my heart pounding. My hand shook as I finally unfolded it behind the bleachers, away from the hum of nervous chatter and the squeak of sneakers on gym floor. "Dear Mia," it started. "You're probably confused and angry right now. Please let me explain." I could almost hear her voice, steady, gentle, but with a hint of fear. She wrote about her own science fair disaster in 8th grade, how her homemade volcano exploded in front of the judges, covering everyone in baking soda sludge. She'd been laughed at, she wrote, and the memory never really faded. "I saw how hard you worked," she said, "but I worried you'd be crushed if something went wrong. I just wanted you to have a shot at feeling proud." My breath caught. I remembered her hovering in the garage, offering advice I'd shrugged off. I pictured her after midnight, swapping my solar oven for the project she'd built without telling me. The letter ended with, "I'm sorry if I've hurt you. I just wanted to protect you from disappointment, the way I wish someone had protected me." I pressed the letter to my chest. There was a metallic tang in the air from all the science gadgets, and the distant whir of a robot someone was testing. I felt like I was split in two, half furious, half aching for her. She'd crossed a line, but for reasons that weren't about winning or controlling me. They were about her own scars. I wiped my eyes and walked back into the gym, every step heavy. My mom was at the edge of the crowd, pretending to fuss with the turbine's display. When she saw me, her smile was too bright, too quick. "Ready?" she asked, voice tight. I wanted to yell. Instead, I whispered, "Why didn't you just tell me?" She looked away. "I thought you'd be mad." "I am," I said, my throat thick. "But I wish you'd trusted me. Even if I failed." The judges started making their rounds, clipboards in hand. My turn was coming. I could feel my classmates' eyes darting over, some whispering about the amazing wind turbine. I had a choice: present the project as mine, or tell the truth. I glanced at my mom. Her hands twisted together, knuckles white. In that moment, I realized she wasn't the unshakable scientist I'd always believed. She was just a mom, scared for her kid. But I also knew what I had to do. When the judges stopped in front of me, I swallowed hard. "Actually," I said, my voice trembling, "this isn't my project. My mom built it. I made a solar oven, but it's not here." There was a beat of silence, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning. One judge raised an eyebrow. "Thank you for your honesty. Could you tell us about your original project?" I nodded, describing my solar oven, the failed batches, the burnt toast, the time I thought I'd finally gotten it right. My cheeks burned, but I kept going, hands moving as I explained. Afterward, I found my mom near the bleachers. She pulled me into a tight hug. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. "I should have believed in you. We didn't win any ribbons." But as we walked out, the spring air sharp on my skin, I felt lighter. I'd stood up for myself and for the messy work that was mine. My mom and I talked for a long time that night, about her fears and mine. We promised to be braver, especially with each other. That day, I learned that honesty stings, but it heals too. And sometimes, loving someone means letting them risk disappointment, so they can find their own pride in the ashes.